Okay, hey, hello everyone. Let's get the webcam on here this morning. Welcome to charting on the Nadex platform. Sorry, we're starting a couple minutes late here, just trying to work out some of the technical difficulties this morning, but I think we have them all good to go. Let's see. Yep, there we are. So this all over here. Yeah, so this is going to be charting on the new Nadex platform, and let's jump right into it. Here we go. So this is our nice disclaimer that you're going to see before the majority of pretty much every webinar that you see on Nadex, every video and everything. It should be pretty recognizable. I'll go through it really quick. Just remember that all trading always does involve risk, whether it be on Nadex, whether it be anywhere else. If you ever put capital into trading, it does involve risk, and you should realize the risk of actually losing that capital. So you don't want to be trading with money you need for food, money you need for rent. You want to be trading with that, what we call discretionary income. Also, I will be going ahead, placing some trades on the platform here today just to show how the charting works, everything works in that regard. None of that's going to be a recommendation of any trades to go out and make. I will most likely be just choosing trades at random, so don't go and think that what I'm choosing are good trades to make, because you know, I will just be clicking around at random to show you how the charting functionality works. All right, I think give another minute to read that while I take a sip of coffee. There we go. Before I go on to the next slide, if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, I do have my questions panel up over on my second screen over here. So if you do have any questions, throw them in there, and I will get to them as we go through, whenever we have a sort of stopping point in the point we're talking about. So yeah, feel free to throw those in there. All right, moving on, just a little bit about me. Probably seeing deja vu to me on your screen right now. Been working at Nadex since 2017, so about 5 years now, which is crazy to think about. And I've been working, focusing on the products and the platforms for the last 4 years. So all the new products that we've been putting out, and then this I still say new platform, but now it's been launched for about 2 years now. So worked on developing that, and so that's why I like to give these webinars. I like to you know, give the full explanation of all the features and the charts that we put in there. And just in my personal trading life, I mainly trade equities, equity options. I can't trade on Nadex because I am an employee of Nadex, so I unfortunately don't trade any of these products on my live account. I do trade them on my demo, and I've been trading about 12 years, since I was about 18. So I think that's enough of the about me section. Real quick, this is just what we're going to go through today. Real quick summary of what we're going to do. This is the last slide before we jump into the fun stuff on the actual platform. So we'll go over all of the charts, which is going to take up the vast majority of the time. So every feature on the charts, how to get to them, how to use them. At the end, depending on how much time we have left, but I will go over a couple indicators. They're, I think, a little bit easier to learn, maybe a little bit more basic, but are great indicators to use. And those are going to be the exponential moving average and the relative strength index, EMA or RSI. And so we will go over those briefly, look how to use them. But without further ado, let's jump into the platform. Let's get to the good part of all this. So let me open up. So this is going to be your login screen. If you don't know how to get here, if you're brand new to trading at Nadex, you just want to go to nadex.com. You can hit login, and it's going to take you to the screen. So you may notice that we did change up the login screen recently, just aesthetically a little bit, but it's still going to work the same way. So let me log into my account here using my trusty I like Nadex account, and there we go. All right, so we have the nice little chart coming across the screen there as we get into the platform. So first of all, how do you bring up a chart? How do you bring anything up in the middle area here? Because this is where your charts are going to go. It's this large area kind of in the middle of the platform. To do that, you just want to select any market that you want to go and trade, and it can be in any product that you want to trade as well. So let's kick off today. We can go. I think I do Forex a lot of these. So let's switch it up. We'll do an indice. Let's go do S&P 500 or US 500 as we call it at Nadex, because that is the underlying in the futures market. So I'm gonna, click. I can click into binary options, go down, click into my indices. I have my US 500 here, And then I can click on any of these, either the buy side, the sell side, or just the actual strike price itself. And you know what? It's looking like we probably need to add some strikes to these because these are moving pretty quickly. Let's go to the 2 hours. All right. We'll go to the 2 hour. It doesn't super matter because we're just looking at the charts mainly. And so as you see, when I click on either on the strike or the buy and the sell, it's going to bring up both the chart in the middle of the screen. It's also going to bring up the deal ticket on the right-hand side of the screen as well. And to kind of give because we are fully looking at the chart here today, to kind of give a full view, I'm going to show you how to just expand the chart to take up the entirety of the screen if you do want to do that. So you actually can hide all these sort of side panels, the deal ticket, the market finder, and the positions panel at the bottom. So if I click hide here, it's going to kind of push this to the side. I can click these double arrows here as well. So I'm circling around, click those at the bottom, and this little hide button here as well that I'm circling, and there we go. So this is how you get up all the actual main part of the chart itself. Now, I'm actually going to move this a little bit because you can see that these are pretty scrunched up right there. All of the binary, these are the different strikes you can trade. They're all very scrunched up together. You can't see most of them. And this is actually a something that you can get quite a lot on Nadex because if you're trading different durations, the different candlesticks are going to give you either kind of scrunched up or very wide ranges for these strike prices. So it brings us to a good point up here. The top left, these are going to be where you select pretty much every option on the chart, either from this top left area or from right clicking. I actually prefer right clicking, but for the actually changing the candlestick interval, it's just going to be this top left button here. So if I go up here and click this, these are going to be the different intervals of the candlestick. So this is basically changing how long each candlestick is telling me. So right now, this one candlestick, this candlestick, this candlestick, that's all taking up a 30-minute period of time, right? It's telling me the high, the low, the open, and the close of that 30-minute period. So if I go down, I can switch it to something a little bit shorter because remember, these are only, what I have selected here is a 2-hour contract. So if you think about it, a 30-minute candlestick for a 2-hour contract, it's basically 4 of these will take up the entire duration of the contract. So you might want something a little bit more, a little shorter duration so you can get some more granularity on what's going on in the market. So let's go down and see how 5 minutes look here. 5 minutes looking pretty good. Maybe we can go a little bit further down. I want to kind of show what it looks like when all of these strikes are visible. Okay, now you can sort of see them. So you can drag up and down on the right-hand side of your screen and pull your chart up and down. Now you can see all of my great strike prices kind of overlaid, and it does look quite messy. Real quick, I'm gonna turn those off, and I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. But actually further on in the webinar, but kind of pro tip before you get there: if you hit S, you can hide and show your strikes. Just a little nice little thing you can do there on the platform. So let's go back and let's get a nice view of our chart here. So now we have our US 500. It's sort of set up really nice on our screen. We only have the strike that we really care about, which is this sort of middle strike right here. I can still select some of these other strikes, and again, I will show you how to get back and put up all the strikes or hide them all. But just for right now, this makes it a little bit easier, and you can see I can actually get in there and select the different strikes as well. So going across the top, so we just saw how to actually pick your different candlestick sizes. One other thing that you can do actually, so as you scroll down here, I'm not sure how visible this is. They are kind of grayed out, but you'll see next to 3 minutes, you have this little button that says 3, or not button, but a little a number there. You also next to 2 hours, for example, have this little thing that says 2H. Well, what are these? Those are actually hotkeys, and they're reminders for hotkeys. So what you can do, if you don't want to actually every time you change your candlestick duration, go up to the top left and click on those. You can just type on your keyboard. So I can type, let's say I want a 2-hour candlestick. I can type 2H, and you'll see it kind of brings up a interval box in the middle. I hit enter. Well, now I have 2-hour candlesticks again, and we can see that this candlestick, is at Tuesday at about 3 o'clock. And then the previous one's Tuesday about 1 o'clock. So you can see those are now 2-hour candlesticks. I can go back to, typing in 5, enter. It's going to default to the minutes, and it'll get you right there again So it's just a much easier way without going up and clicking. If you do remember those hotkeys, much quicker way than actually taking control of your mouse, moving all the way up, moving back to what you're doing. You can just do it on your keyboard without actually moving around the platform itself. And if you do forget what those hotkeys are, again, they are on the right-hand side here. So you can do, everything without the like 1, 2, 5, that's going to default to minutes. You can do 1S, you'll see is seconds, 1T is 1 tick, and then you can do 1D, day, 1H, 1 hour. So just these are little pro tips for how to actually select the candlesticks using those hotkeys. I'm a big fan of hotkeys if you can't tell. The next thing we have over going kind of left to right on that top left-hand corner bar is the date range. So using this, you can actually say, okay, give me 1 day of data on my chart. Now if I go back here, you'll see at the bottom here, I can see this candle. I don't know why I'm pointing to my screen. You guys obviously can't see that, but you can see right down here at the bottom where it says, it's moving with me, but it says when the duration is. You'll see this says Wednesday, February 2nd at 12:15. Right now it is Thursday, February the 3rd at 12:15 Eastern, or around that. So you'll see it's giving me exactly about 24 hours of candlesticks on my screen right there. You will notice though, however, it did change my candlestick duration. So just make sure you're aware of that if you do use that functionality. If I want to go back and see like a week of data, it might have to change the size of the candlesticks to actually put that on my screen. I'm actually just going to go back to 5 minutes here and reset up my chart a little bit. That is going to be how you select that. So you can go, you can select a year, a day, a month, a day, right? Now moving on, for the rest of these, I'm actually going to use the right-click functionality. I prefer that on the charts. Just remember though that you can either, for everything else besides these two little things, you can either get to it up here on this bar, or you can, right-click, not left-click. So you can right-click on the chart itself. I hope you guys like my little laid up mouse. You can right-click on the chart itself, and this is going to give you all the same options that you have across the top left. So just a couple different ways to do it. I like the right-click because, again, I don't like to have to move my mouse up and down all the time, especially when I have a deal ticket up over here, right? So I'll be, trading, move, when I can just right-click and not have to move around. Just my preference. If you like it the other way, obviously do it that way. So moving on here, we have our indicators. So if you right-click, the very first thing you're going to get in here is your indicators. This is all the indicators that we have available on the platform. We are always looking into adding more, but I think these are a very good grouping of some of the most used indicators. And certainly we have tried to put the most requested indicators onto our charting. As you go through, so the first thing, if you don't know what these indicators mean, and I mean, I don't use a lot of these all the time, so I even will get fuzzy on them, especially when I first started trading. I didn't know what any of these really meant, or very few. If you don't know what any of them means, but you want to learn a little bit about, let's say, I don't know what Bollinger Bands are. Well, I can hover over this little information panel to the right of any of these indicators, and it's going to give me a little blurb. It's going to tell me Bollinger Bands, they're envelopes based on moving average and a standard deviation from that moving average. And it's going to make bands basically that are wider or narrow around market volatility. And it'll give you a little blurb here. Well, as always, there's always a lot more to learn on any of these. There's also a lot more to learn on really anything in life. And so you can always go ahead and Google, get a little bit more information on any of these, but this is a good starting point if you want a very brief overview of what these indicators do, what they mean. So let's go on and, we talked about Bollinger Bands. Let's select a Bollinger Band, put it on the chart here. So we have our great bands here. I'm not going to get fully into what Bollinger Bands are here today, but I will show you how to sort of manipulate and work with indicators that are on your chart. So I have this overlaid, and maybe I like Bollinger Bands, maybe I also like my MACD. So you have a couple different kind of indicators, right? There are the ones that overlay directly on the chart itself, and then there are the ones that sort of go in the below charting area that can't be overlaid on the direct chart. So something like MACD, that's your moving average convergence divergence. That's going to go on the bottom there, while your Bollinger Bands are going to be on the top of the chart. To actually go ahead and select the different indicators and change up the different levels on the indicators, you're going to want to see. So see when I overlaid this, I got this little. It's down here, and this box is following me around, but I hope you can see it. So it says ball 22, right? So this little panel right here, if I click on that directly, it's going to bring up an options panel on my machine here to actually play around and select the different aspects of the indicator that I want to move. So let's say instead of it taking a 20 period as the basis for my Bollinger Bands, maybe I want a 26 period, and say instead of saying I want the bands to be 2 standard deviations away from the mean, let's say I want it to be 3 standard deviations away from the mean. And so as I click through that, you'll see I'm actually I've really widened out my bands there, and you can obviously bring them down by adjusting these. Now, if you don't know what these mean, what changing the period, what the standard deviation does, don't worry. You can go ahead and look up more of that, and I will go into a couple of these at the end, like Ema and Rsi. But for right now, I just want to get through all the functionality of the charting. So if you do know why you would change these, go ahead, get in there, change them. If you don't know why you would go ahead and change them, but you do know generally what you want to look for with something like a Bollinger Band, I would recommend just not changing them until you do know more about the reasons that you would, because the majority of the time, the basis, the sort of default setting is going to be fine for what you're doing. You can also change the colors, right? So if let's say I want the upper bound to be a red line and the lower bound to also be a red line, and I want the shading in the middle to be I don't know, purple and the fill line to be blue, you can do that as well. That kind of clashes, and I can't really see that very well, so I'm going to reset that to the defaults. I can reset them all to the defaults, and I can hit apply. So that's going to be how you move in, and every single indicator is going to have a little area down here. And even if we put a couple of the same sort of type, as in of the same ones that are overlaid directly on the chart. So another one that's overlaid directly on the chart is going to be, let's do, there it is. So your exponential moving average. So you'll see it kind of stacks up here at the bottom left if it's overlaid on the charts. And then if you have one underneath, you also have it down here. So MACD. And again, same sort of thing, I want a 24, 52 period, can change that up for the MACD, and it obviously throws it off a lot. For right now, I'm going to take off the MACD and I'm going to take off the Bollinger Bands just to make our chart a little bit easier to look at as we move through the rest of these drawings. I'll leave the MACD or the EMA up. So that's going to be indicators, right? You also that's going to be indicators, and remember, if you do ever need any more information on them, you do have those informational blurbs. Moving on down, we have our drawings. Our drawings panel is going to be very similar to the indicators panel. You do a lot of the same thing with your drawings on charts. If you don't know what any of these means, like some of them are very self-explanatory. An arrow is an arrow, and if you hold it over, it's an arrow. But something like an Elliott wave, if you put it over the informational panel, it's going to tell you a little bit more about Elliott waves and what they are. And so if you want to draw, you can just click on one. Let's say I have my arrow here. I want to point here. There we go. Now I'm pointing to this nice candlestick. Sorry, my brain seems to be working a little bit slow. I can put my GAM fans on there, right? So you can draw all over the chart itself. Obviously, this is looking very, very dirty. It's not looking very great because I'm just sort of throwing these on. Another thing though that you can do, if you do, you'll see these little like bubbles on the drawing itself. So if you want to move around what you just put on the drawing, you can actually click on these little bubbles, and I'm hoping you're able to see this. So I'll kind of circle them with my mouse. You have one here, you have one here. So I can get over top of this, and I can kind of drag this around, and this one's going to allow me to sort of move my GAM band up and down this way. So you can go ahead, you can go around and manipulate them. So if I actually wanted to do this on, closer to what the market's doing, I could do something like that. Now, if I want to go ahead and delete my drawings because I think, these are terrible, I can right click on the drawing itself. So I can go ahead, right click. I can either edit it, I can duplicate it, or I can delete it. Duplicate is just going to give you another one, and it's going to actually allow you to change. So you can actually change like the angle to the certain angle you want on these sort of things. So there's a lot you can actually do in these drawings on the individual drawing itself. We can go ahead and apply. So to get to that again, you're going to kind of hover over. You're going to right click, and then you have your edit, your duplicate, or you can delete. So you can delete one by one these drawings. You can also delete all your drawings. So if we go back here, I can go delete all drawings. They're gone. If I say, oh no, I don't want to do that, I can hit undo. They'll come back. I'm going to go ahead and delete these for right now because again, it's sort of messy and I didn't really draw them very realistically to what you might draw on these yourself. One other thing that you can do here, so actually a couple other things. So first, this top bar here, show drawing toolbar. If you do draw on your charts a lot, this is a very useful tool. So as you might have noticed when I actually clicked on that, and I'll do it again. While I'm clicking on this, in this bottom right down here, we're going to have a toolbar pop up. So we have a toolbar here now. So now if I want to draw, let's say, a channel, I can go ahead. This is the kind of, you have these symbols for everything. So I have this channel here, and I can draw like this. Oops, that's not how you draw a channel. All right, well, I didn't really draw a channel very well. There we go. You can actually get to the channel functionality or any of the other drawing functionality from your drawing toolbar. So if you do draw a lot on your charts, you can go ahead, draw them there. One more thing with the drawing as well, and then we'll move on, is this snap to HLOC prices. HLOC, that's going to stand for high, low, open, close. And really what this piece of functionality does is that when you are drawing, this will snap to the points of the candlestick, right? So if I deselect this, and I'll try to show you, I'll kind of zoom in. Let me zoom in here. So let me select a arrow. I can actually do it for my drawing toolbar. So you'll see as I have, so this isn't selected, so I can kind of go over this. Nothing's really happening, nothing's snapping. If I go back and actually turn on snap to HLOC prices, you'll see as I sort of go over this with my arrow, it'll sort of snap on to the, you'll see here, it's hard to show, honestly, but it'll snap on to the different parts of the candlestick. So if I want to just, point to the actual, the high point there, where I want to point to, the open, I can point to these different parts of the candlestick and it'll snap directly to it. So that's what the snap to HLOC pricing does. I usually just leave it on, honestly. So yeah, that's what that little bit of functionality is. All right, so that is going to be everything we have for the drawings. Let's move on down to our different charting types. So the default is going to be the candlestick charts. This is going to be the one that everyone is probably most aware with, what we have in front of us here, and it's going to be the default for the majority of trading platforms and charting platforms. You do have some other options here though. So as we move down, we have our candlestick, we have our Hloc. You'll notice, I won't go fully into what Hloc is, but very basically, it rather than taking the pure high, low, open, and close of every time period, it takes an averaging. The calculation for it basically sort of averages this high, low, open, and close with previous periods. And so what actually happens with those, you might be able to tell, is instead of the regular candlesticks where they're a lot more choppy, with these you get a lot smoother chart. And so you can see as I zoom out, and I'll just kind of compare it. So these are a lot more choppy, and the Hloc is a lot smoother. It can be used to look at different charting points and see maybe when there is a more upward and downward trend starting to materialize. Is sort of the point of the Hloc. But I definitely, if you do want to use these charts, I highly recommend going on. I think we actually do have some learning material on our own site, or again, Google is always your friend for learning a little bit more if you don't know about things. Moving on down, we have our line chart, and I'll zoom back in here. We have our line chart, very basic, should be able to understand it. It's just the line chart. We have our Hloc chart. So this is basically a chart. It's going to give you the same information that is on a candlestick chart. So you'll see if we actually go candlestick, Hloc, it's sort of just like filling in the candlesticks. When we go back to candlestick, some people will prefer these because you can kind of see you know, how the high, low, open, and close, how they're going to the next period. You know, because the open is always the line for the open is always going to be going to the left. The line for the close is always going to be going to the right. So some people prefer these, some people don't. I like the pure candlestick view, but again, it's all personal preference. And then we also have the mountain. This is basically just your line chart, but it's shaded underneath. So you can select any of these. I'm going to go back to just the normal candlesticks for the duration of this webinar, but you do have these options as well for trading. So pull this candlestick back up. I'm going to take a sip of water here. Been talking straight for a couple minutes. All right. So moving on down, we have gotten through our types. We have our price now. Now this panel, if you don't know why you would change it, I would heavily recommend to leave it at last trade. Basically what this does, and I'll show you by pulling up a deal ticket here. Basically what you're doing here is telling what pricing you want to be shown on the chart itself. So you can say, okay, I want to see the ask price, the bid price. Actually, maybe I'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit more. So you'll see as I actually do that, I don't know if you caught that, but as if I change up to the ask now, it's going to move all of the candlesticks in an upward direction a little bit, right? And why is it doing that? It's because what I'm actually telling the chart to do is show me the ask price of the underlying market. So as you may all be aware, and I can kind of show you an example here, you have your ask and you have your bid in any market, right? You're buy and you're sell, if you will. And there's always, you know, there are different prices. So as we can see here, our ideal ticket, this isn't what's being shown on this platform. What's being shown is the underlying, but it's a good way to explain it. So on the buy and on the sell, there's different pricing. What we're actually showing you on this chart and what the indicative price is based off, what the settlement price is based off, right? So what you really want to be trading off of is going to be the last traded price in the market. And that is going to be the default, right? It's going to be the last traded price in the market. If you really want to see what the ask price in the market is, right, you can go select that, or what the bid price of the market is. You can go select that as well. You can also select the midpoint price, which is going to be the mid between the ask and the bid. Again, if you don't know why you would change this, just leave it the last traded, because what will happen, and you know, I had this happen a few times when I started Nadex just on the phones here, and I've heard this a lot from people that are on the phones, is people will call in and say, well, the price on the chart is not matching the price on my indicative pricing. What is going on, right? And you can see here right now, as it's select the last traded, these should be the same, right? The charting, the indicative, they are the same. If I go over and I choose the ask, this is not the same anymore, right? This is 4506.566. Like it's a little bit above what the indicative price is, because again, it's telling you what the ask price of the market is. Now, I know I just said don't go and change them unless you know why, but one reason you might want to go and change them is if you want to look at the quick chart. So we're going to take a quick detour over and we're going to look at our quick chart functionality. Now, I think this is a super important piece of functionality and one that is really useful and also often overlooked. So if we go to our quick chart, and especially on binaries, this is useful. So I can click this, and you'll notice it's giving me a different chart now, right? And I only really have, you know, there's still 5-minute candles, but I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candlesticks, right? Why is that? It's because this actually is showing me the pricing of the binary option itself. So on most of the products, the default that you're going to see on the platform is going to be the underlying market, right? You're going to be seeing the pricing charted of the US 500 because that's what you're trading off of. You're trading a derivative contract based on the pricing of that underlying market. However, if you want to go back and look at what the actual price of the binary option was, you can do that, and you can do that by going to the quick chart. So you'll see actually as I move up and down, I think what I selected selected the ask. So you'll see this actually is going to be the same as the buy. right? So as it moves up and down, you know, I selected the ask right now. It might be a little bit, you know, as it moves up and down with the pricing, there might be kind of a second delay there. I can go to the mid as well, or the bid as well. You'll see it's really setting up with the best bid price here offered in the market. And I can also go to the midpoint pricing as well, and it's going to give me that middle pricing. So the quick charts are a very good way to go back and see what's been happening for the pricing of the actual binary option contract, as opposed to the pricing of the underlying market on which the binary contract is based. So it is a very useful tool to go back and see, you know, if I was trading something maybe on a daily, right? If I was on a daily contract, I'd look back all the way to yesterday and see, oh, you know, this morning this contract was trading at this such and such price. Maybe the underlying market moved up. Maybe the overall market volatility changed, right? You can go back and you can see what was actually being traded on the binary option itself. And that is a reason why you might want to choose ask or bid if you want to really see what the ask was of the binary option. Again, if you aren't super familiar with what it is, I wouldn't recommend changing this pricing, because it can lead to you know, the price on the chart not matching the actual indicative price and the settlement price, because you actually are asking the chart basically to not do that. So I'm going to go back. So again, to get to the quick charts and get to the default charts, you have this little hamburger menu is what we call them, the little 3 lines. You click on that and you have your switch to default chart and your tear-off chart. I will get to the tear-off chart in just a little bit and show you all what that is as well. All right, so let's make sure our price is back in the last traded position so that we can be all good and ready to trade. I feel like I'm an airline pilot saying make sure your trade tables are in the upright position. Let's move on here to our scale. So this is another one I actually quite like. So the default, I believe, is actually linear. So I'm going to click on linear real quick. This is an account I use for these webinars a lot, and I don't go back and switch it back to the defaults. So what the price is doing here, so it's going to default to linear, and what this is referencing is this left-hand panel here. So you can see on the left-hand panel, you have, it's not really a panel, but you have your actual price of the underlying market, right? So the US 500 right now, trading about 45.04. And so these are actual prices that of the US 500, or not actual prices, but a scale of the pricing around that, right? If I go to percentage, and I actually quite like using percentage, you'll see that rather than whole numbers, rather than integers that it's putting up on the right-hand side, it's now giving you percentages. And what are these percentages referring to? Well, if I go back and I sort of look at the first candle that's selected on my screen and go all the way over, well, that's about 0%, right? So what this is actually measuring is, and I it's kind of covered up when I did that, so. But you'll see here on the very right side of my screen, if you look on the right side of my screen, this is about 0%, right? What you're actually able to do then is say, okay, well, what it's saying is the first candlestick is starting at 0%. And so I can sort of see the percentage change very, very easily by just looking at the right-hand side. So I can go down and see, you know, without really any math on my side, I can look at this bottom candle and say, okay, well, this candlestick's about 0.5% negative from this first candle where it started. So it gives you a really good reference point as to the percent change that the market's gone through. I really like looking at that when I'm doing my own personal trading. I like seeing, you know, rather than the absolute where the numbers are, the changes between different periods. I think that gives a lot of information. So that's why I personally change mine to percentage on almost all of my trading environments and in all my demo trading that I do in Nadex as well. You know, there obviously are upsides to using the linear as well. You can get a nice view of the actual you know, market where it's moving. But for my money, I like using the percent change just because it does give you that overall percentage move from, and if you zoom in and zoom out, it actually will change the, you know, where these are set up on the side, because it's going to wherever this first candlestick is, it's putting that at 0%, and it's automatically just scaling. You know, I can see, okay, this is down 0.66%. So that's going to be what that scale is linear percentage. Now we're down to the show panel. So on the show panel, we have a great many things selected, and this is going to get back to where at the very beginning of the webinar, I hit a lot of the strikes using my handy S key on my keyboard. We're going to go over a lot more things you can actually do on your keyboard, as well as a lot of things you can hide and show on the chart itself. Excuse me. The first one's going to be this HLOC data. So before I turn it off, I want to show you what that is. So the HLOC data, you'll see as I move my cursor around the screen, this box follows me, right? The box right there that says last traded, highest, lowest, open, close, change, and then the EMA numbers. That is going to be your HLOC data. Actually, I think that's, yeah, that's going to be the HLOC data. So if I, sorry, for a second, I thought I was talking about the wrong thing, but I was correct. I always second guess myself. So as you can see, when I deselected that, the HLOC data is no longer showing. So I like having it up. However, it can get kind of busy. So if you do like not having it up, you certainly don't have to. Here again, just to show you what it is, it's this box that says last traded. And again, now it's gone. Your drawings, so we still have some drawing on the screen here. We can hide or show the drawings super easily. It's also going to hide or show the drawing toolbar. Same thing with indicators. We can hide or show our indicators. Kind of pro tip, if you're ever in a scenario where you can't get your drawings to come up, you can't get your indicators to come up, and you can't figure out why, check this panel, because this, you might have them deselected and they won't be showing up for you. Moving on down, we have our open positions, our working orders, our strikes, and our timeline. So actually very quickly, I'm going to get into a couple trades here. So we're just going to super quickly shoot into one. Doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to place an order, and then let's get into a, I want to put a working order on one of these as well. Oops, I slipped aside there. Okay, so, and I'm actually going to show the strikes here very quickly too. So really quickly, I'm going to say show. So I'm going to show all the strikes. So this is how I hid all of those strikes earlier. You can either do it from here or you can hit the S key, but very quickly I want to show. So you'll see if you're in a position on the strike itself, or if you're in a call spread or knockout, it'll show you on the call spread or knockout overlays. It'll show you what your positions are, right? So this is the position I just got into. It's one, it's binary options above 45072, and it shows my P&L. This, what I just placed, was a working order. So you'll see this is a working order down here. I'm not in it yet. It's a limit order for one to get into the contract, and you'll see it's a little bit different than the position that's showing, right? So it shows it in a way. So the position is going to be either red or green. It's going to actually show my profit or loss on that position right now if I were to get out of the contract. The working order, the one I actually haven't gone into, I basically said if this gets down to $10, and you'll see this price at like 38 right now, I basically told it to, if it gets down to $10 to fill me, that's going to show up as a gray sort of bar on the strike itself or on the call spread or knockout if you're trading those. If I go to the show section, I can actually hide these. So I can hide or show my open positions. I can hide or show my working orders. We have our strikes here to hide or show. You also have your timeline at the bottom. You can hide or show those. Now, why did I just do kind of those four together? Because those four have hotkeys. And you might remember from the beginning, I do love my hotkeys. So for the open positions, you can hit O, and that's going to toggle your open positions on or off. I'm hitting it there, and it's turning on and off my open position. That's right here. You can hit P. P is going to be your positions. So again, toggling on and off my P key. And you can hit S, which is the one I showed you earlier. This is probably the one I use most out of all of the hotkeys on the platform, because a lot of times I'm trying to look at the entire strike ladder like we have up here. And then once I have a good idea of where the strikes are, once I have a good idea of where the market is moving in relation to all the strikes, and I have one strike that I really want to focus on, hit the S key, Now I can just see the one strike that I have selected. I don't have to look at the rest of them. If I look at that, I can hit the S key again. So I use this all the time. I think it's super useful just because it helps you, it helps kind of clean up everything else that you're not looking at right now. And then when I want to look at everything else, I can select, say, okay, maybe I want to trade something a little bit closer to what the market's trading. And I can deselect it again, and it's only going to keep selected the one market that I actually have picked, right? So again, I use this all the time, and then T as well. So you have this timeline at the bottom. Basically, the timeline is going to show you the sort of volume and timeline of the chart, but you can toggle it on and off. If you ever do forget what any of these hotkeys are and you want to use them, you can see again over here they're written in kind of little gray letters, P, O, S, and T. So that's going to be the hotkey. Is another kind of pro tip there for that's why I stick around all these webinars, right? All right, so now we have our price changes. So we can hide or show the price changes. Price changes are going to be these in the bottom left corner. And let me actually get my chart sort of back to where I want it. Okay, so the price changes, you can see here in the bottom left corner, you have your overall percentage change. So this is going to kind of give you, again, a percentage change from where the starting, it's going to give you an absolute and percentage change here. Let me turn off the HLC so you guys can see this. All right, so where my mouse is right now, you can see this is actually giving you the overall and the percentage change from the very first candlestick, right? So if we actually look down here, from this candle to this candle, we're down about 20 points, and that's about half of a percentage move downward. You also can see the high and the low of today, and you can see the high and the low of what you have selected on the screen. So that's what these price changes, that's what this refers to here. So if I deselect that, that all goes away. I reselect it, it all comes back, right? I like having it up. I don't think it makes it look too messy, but again, you can deselect all of this if you really just like a very clean chart without a lot of information on it. My charts tend to get super messy because I like just having a ton of information that I can look at a moment's notice. And then we have our price line. Price line is going to be the last in the show panel, and the price line is going to be, you might have noticed when I just deselected it. So if you look at this blue bar that says where the current market is trading, I'm sort of circling over right now. If I select this again, it's going to have a line going out across that, across the entire chart itself. So let's actually select this. And there we go. There's the price line. You can see I'm toggling it on and off. So that's going to be everything there in that show panel. Moving on down, we have our layouts. So layouts, if you have a certain setup that you like to trade with a lot, maybe a certain number of indicators that you think work well together. Let's say I always trade with Bollinger Bands and I always trade with RSI, right? I can actually go ahead and, so maybe I'll select RSI as well. I can actually go ahead and save this layout. So if I go to layout, I can go save as. I can say this is Adam's cool layout, right? I can save that layout. Now, if I go anywhere else, let's go select, I don't know, the call spread, and let's say these, okay, let's say these aren't selected. So I can turn off these indicators. Now, if I go and I actually apply, so I can go down to layouts and go apply. What did I just call it? Adam's cool layout. See, I really call my stuff the same thing all the time. Adam's cool layout. I apply that. That's going to automatically overlay the indicators that I have selected on this chart. So this is super useful if you do always trade with the same indicators, which a lot of people do. A lot of people get a certain number of indicators that they really like, and they really like how they work together, because there are certain indicators that tell you different things, right? There's momentum indicators, there's there's different sort of indicators that tell you different, that give you different sort of indications of what's happening in the market. But if you have ones that you always like to trade with, you can save that layout and then apply it later to very quickly get in and start trading. I'm going to go back to, what was I on? Let's see, we were on the S&P 500. So I'm just getting back to the market we were on previously. I'm going to turn off this RSI. Let's say though that I have a ton of indicators here, like I actually do have a ton of indicators, or sorry, layouts. I can go ahead and delete that layout. So if I say I don't want Adam's cool layout anymore, I can delete that. It's gone. So that's going to be how you set up a layout, how you apply it, and then how you get rid of them if you don't want them anymore. Coffee keeps me going. All right, let's move on to customize appearance. This is where you're just going to be able to customize the actual appearance of your chart, so you can change up the colors, the really just the colors. You can choose the thickness of the lines as well, so you can see. As I'm sort of selecting these, now I have very thick, chunky candlesticks. I don't really think that's very useful, but you can also change, if you want your rising bodies to be, let's say, purple, and your rising body lines to be purple, and your falling bodies to be yellow. And now I've just made a great LSU color chart. But you can absolutely do that. So this is where you're going to show all these. You can also show or hide your grid. So this grid that's in the background here, a lot of people do like it, a lot of people don't. So you can show or hide that. You can also change the color of your grid. So let's make this, that is terrible. So you have your grid here, and then you have a watermark. So you can actually click show watermark, and it's going to show you the actual underlying. So I'll apply this real quick. So you can see this shows the actual underlying market. We have the grid on the background. We have our candlesticks that now look like I'm an LSU Tigers fan. And I'm actually going to go ahead and really reset this all to defaults because I don't think this looks very good. But before I do that, I'm actually going to show each of these, high canacity, line, mountain. They all have their own sort of setup. So if you do want to change these, you have to change it on the actual charting type that you want to do. So if you, I want this to go back to default. I no longer like what I've done here. I can hit reset to default. That's how you're going to customize the appearance of your actual chart, so you can make it any colors of the rainbow that your heart desires. Lastly, on this panel, we do have a couple more things to discuss before we get through all the features. So I am trying to get to the end of this because I did promise I would give a brief overview of RSI and Ema, and I do want to stick to that. We have our export chart. So clicking on this, my Google is messed up, so this isn't actually going to work very well for me. But if I go to my downloads and click this, this is going to pop up for me. So on a normal Google Chrome that's not messed up, what's going to happen is you're going to get, one of those little like download things. And this is going to be on any browser. The little download thing, when you click onto the download, it pops up at the bottom of your screen. It's going to come up and it's going to give you an image of your chart, an image file of your chart. So this is useful if you have a certain setup you like, see something that's going on that you want to send out. I know, I follow some trading people on Instagram, and they like to put on their stories all the time, different trades that they're doing. Or if you have something that you need to send into us, to customer service, that you don't think looks right. A lot of reasons that you might do this is it's a super easy way to get in and actually take a screenshot without taking a whole screenshot, right? It automatically puts it out into a PNG file for you automatically. So that's going to be everything on this, on the right-click panel here. There are a couple more things that you can actually do. So you may notice I've been scrolling in and out for a lot of these, and I do this just through scrolling my mouse. You can also, though, zoom out using these keys up here. So you have your zoom in, zoom out key as well. So that's fairly self-explanatory, right? Another thing, though, that you might notice about me scrolling in, scrolling out is that as I scroll in and out, oops, click on this again. As I scroll in and out, it's keeping the chart in the frame, right? So it's scrolling in and out, but it's not just zooming in and out. It's sort of scrolling to the point that the chart stays inside the frame that I'm selecting for. Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. If I actually pull this up, let's pull this back a little bit. And now let's scroll in, let's scroll out. Well, now you can see it's not actually resizing the chart. There's part of the chart up here that I can't see anymore. Why did it do that? Well, it's because I actually grabbed the chart and I moved it up and down. So you can grab the chart, right click it, move it around. I'm sorry for shaking your screens around. But if you do that, And there are reasons to do that, right? But if you do that, it's gonna sort of it's gonna turn off the auto scrolling or the auto zooming feature when you scroll. And so how you're gonna want to turn that back on is this button right here. Now, what this button does is it actually takes you to the latest price, but it's also gonna turn your scrolling back on. So if I go to the latest price, it's gonna take me all the way here. And now if I scroll in and out, you can see again, it's keeping the chart in the frame. So it's sort of hidden functionality. That's why I like to go over it. And I think it's really useful functionality that's very easy to turn off, right? All you have to do is this, and now you lost that functionality. So to get that back, you want to hit this latest price button, and now it's going to scroll up and down with you again. So it's fairly simple there. Another chart resizing thing, I know I did go over this a little bit earlier, but if you see, if I move my cursor over the right-hand panel, you'll see there's a point when instead of it being a point and click cursor, a pointer cursor, it turns into a double arrow cursor. So you'll see here, now it's double arrow. If I right click and drag up and down, I can actually move the kind of widen or shorten this. And this is super useful for when you have a lot of strikes that aren't showing up. So if I have a lot of strikes here that aren't showing up, I can move them up and I can see, okay, now I can see these strikes where they are. I can move it back down again, and you can also see you can see all your strikes. You can see where they are all falling. Now I can turn them off again. Again, if you want to sort of get them back to default, you can hit this latest price button again. Going to take you to the latest price. Again, to sort of get you back to that default view on the chart itself. One more super important thing before you get to these RSI and EMA, and this is one of maybe the most important bits. So if you stuck around to the end here, you are getting a nice little pro thing, is the tear-off charts. The tear-off tickets and the tear-off charts, I think, are extremely useful. So what these do is pretty simple. It's going to tear the chart off into a new window, right? So you might be saying, why is that so important? Well, this is going to allow you to sort of set up your trading screen however you want it. So I'm going to really quickly just throw this. I have two screens. You can't see my second screen, but I'm going to really quickly pull up a bunch of different charts. So let's pull up a Germany 40 and tear that off. I'm going quick. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second, but I'm just going to tear off, a few different charts. Just putting them on my second screen. I'll show you in 1 second what I'm doing. Sorry, I know this isn't the most informative thing that I'm doing right now. Okay, so I have 4 charts here. Now let's say that I want to set these up, and I always want to look at these 4 charts. So I want to look at the Tech 100. I want to look at the small cap. And now I'm doing this on my main screen, which is much smaller. I often do this on my second screen, which is a little bit larger and gives me a little bit more space. But so basically what you can do, and you'll see, I'm kind of just dragging these around and putting them on my screen. And so now I can set up my charting to look at a bunch of different markets at the same time and trade them all at the same time. If I can drag this. So I'm not going to make these perfect just because this is just for showing you. But this is how to do this. Now, if you only trade on one screen, this might not be super helpful. But if you do have a multi-screen setup, this is, I think, very, very useful because you can get in here and you actually have a bunch of things on your other screen while maybe having your main platform still there. So you can tear off all of these. You can line them up however you want, put them wherever you want. And if you do want to trade on them, you can also do this with the tickets as well. It's going to open up a ticket in the same window. I can place a trade. I can do all of my charting from this individual window, and then I can, get this to go back as well. I can hide the ticket. I can hide the chart. So if you do ever lose these as well, because these are sort of independent windows, they can get hidden behind other windows. Just go down to your Chrome, and you're going to be able to see them all. So I'm going to exit out all of these real quick because these are kind of messy. That looked very messy. When I usually set them up other places, it doesn't look quite as bad. But again, you're going to do that through this little hamburger menu and go tear off the chart. All right, so that's going to be all of the functionality of these charts. We are at 11:56 right now, or 12:56 if you're Eastern time. So we're getting right up against that hour point. I will super quickly go over EMA and RSI. we're not going to go a full, really in-depth into these, but I will give you a kind of crash course in exponential moving average and relative strength indicator. So the exponential moving average we already have on our chart. It's the one I had overlaid earlier, and it's going to take basically moving averages exponential moving averages from different time periods, right? So it's sort of giving you these different momentum indicators, and you want to be looking for where crosses are occurring between these different indicators, right? So you might be looking for, a crossing occurring between these different moving averages means that there might be a trade point either upward or downward in the that you want to be looking for inside using these moving averages, right? Because basically the 20 period and the 50 period, if they're crossing, if they're going up, they're going down. And actually, a lot of people generally use like 26 and 52 rather than 20, 50. But it's really up to you. But basically, if you see these all crossing, you might have an indication that you're seeing either upward or downward momentum in the underlying market, especially if you get all three converging with each other or diverging away from each other. Relative strength index, and I'm sorry I'm not giving a super in-depth explanation. I do kind of make sure that we get to all the features before we get to these because these are maybe a little bit easier to learn. I think there's a lot more information online on these. RSI is another one that I like to use, and I think is a fairly simple one, a fairly simple to understand indicator. So RSI stands for the relative strength index. What the RSI is telling you is basically, so you have these, so if you click on this, you can see you have a 14 period and you have your RSI of 70 and 30. I'm not going to go into how exactly it's calculated, but what you are looking for in RSI is basically these overbought or oversold levels. So if it goes above 70, that's giving you an indicator. That's giving you the relative strength of the market. It's saying it's overbought, right? And so if it's overbought, it's sort of an indicator that it may be moving to the downside. So an overbought indicator is a potential downside trend of the market, while an oversold indicator, which you can see here, if it goes below this 30 RSI point, is what's called it's an indicator of the market being oversold. So an indicator that the market may recover from that point, given the relative strength of the market previously. So this is going to be what you want to be looking for. Now, with all technical indicators, none of them are perfect. A lot of people, how they trade is they set up a couple in conjunction and say, okay, RSI did this and EMA did this at the same time. You can actually see here, right, that we do actually have a cross in the exponential moving average and an overbought signal in the RSI at similar times. But it did continue to run up before it sort of went down a little bit. So these aren't always perfect, but they can give you a good sort of trade setup. So we do have an oversold indicator here at the bottom, and you can see this is after a large sell-off, and this is indicating that it's oversold. And you can see that once this kind of lines up here, once it comes back above this, that we have a lot more flattening. We don't have this drop anymore that we just saw in the market there. So I know that was super quick. That was under 5 minutes for 2 indicators. One other thing with the RSI and with these two, but if you want to be super sure you're seeing an overbought or oversold level, you can always change these to like 80-20. Now we don't have an oversold here, but we still do have a little overbought, and you can see it's kind of this little red thing there that's over that 80-20. So that was the very, very quick crash course into RSI and EMA, and the much longer course into the actual functionality of the chart itself. If you do have any questions, I've been looking for any questions throughout the entire thing. We do have a pretty quiet chat here today. I haven't seen any coming in, but if you do have any questions, I will give a little bit of time here to, I'll give a little bit of time to ask those questions as we kind of end up the webinar here. I know we are going over a little bit over an hour here, so thank all of you for coming. If you don't have any questions, if you do need help with any of this, if you don't have any questions right now, but you have some that you might have, I have later, you can go ahead, contact us, send us an email, customerservice@nadex.com. We have a lot of great customer service representatives. They are very knowledgeable on our platform, and they should be able to help you out with any issues that you're having. If you are liking Nadex or you're liking trading here, it does help us if you go leave a Trustpilot review. It helps up our marketing team very much likes that, but it really does help us. So if you are genuinely enjoying trading here, go leave us a Trustpilot review, and also follow us. We have all the best socials: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. This webinar will be up on YouTube in the next, usually within an hour or two, along with all of the webinars that I do, all the webinars that Todd Rich does, another person that does a lot of webinar here, our head of education, and all of the webinars that we host from third parties as well. So we have a lot of great content and some short form videos on our YouTube, so definitely go check that out. And yeah, I'll give it another 1 second for any questions to come in, but I am not seeing any today. It's been a very, very quiet chat today, which either means either everyone's understanding I'm doing a bad job of explaining, or I'm doing an amazing job of explaining. So we'll see which one that is. All right, I don't think we have any more questions coming in today. If you do have any questions, again, shoot us an email to customer service. More than happy to help you out with that. Other than that, thank you all for sitting on this webinar for the last hour or so, taking an hour of your day with me. If you do like what I'm putting out here, if you do follow that was educational, I do these webinars every Thursday, and they're sort of rotating. So I did the unless there's basically every Thursday. So I do a platform one last week or a couple weeks ago. I did this one today, and then I think next week should be either one on binaries or on call spreads and knockouts, and then the week after that is going to be the other one on call spread and knockouts or on binaries. I believe next week's binaries, week after that call spread and knockouts. You can go look at our webinar schedule. So if you do enjoy listening to me drone on for an hour or so, definitely come back next Thursday. We'll have some more content for you then. Other than that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I hope all of your trades go very well for you. So good luck in your trading, and have a good one, everyone.